everyone to Coffee with a Coach Kuhn. This is the coach's show of the Grenada High School Charger football program. I want to thank Grenada Nissan, our sponsor of this program, for providing the venue today. And the show is open to the public, and we got a number of people here sipping coffee with us, ready to talk some Charger football. So, welcome, Coach Kuhn.
Hey, Rodney, thank you.
Hey, man. I know, man, you're starting your 8th season as the head coach of the Chargers, man. I get to thinking, you've really been around, you've become a part of our community. I get to thinking, man, you and I live in the same neighborhood, right?
That's right.
Go to the same church. Both our daughters, my daughter Sarah, your daughter Anna, are seniors this year.
Right.
I know I've seen your son Thomas grow. Said he was a young guy when y'all moved here. He's wearing a Charger uniform this year, isn't he?
Right, he is. He's a great football player.
Junior high.
Yeah.
All those things, man, so you really become a part of, I know, my community and then our community as a whole here in Grenada. If you've been one place as a high school football coach for 8 years, you're doing some things right. I'm here to tell you that. So, man, I know we've been to a couple of civic clubs here in the last few weeks, man.
Right.
Listened to you speak, and one thing, or several things stood out, but one thing in a particular, I know you made a comment that, this Friday night is our first opening game, of our 12-game schedule this year. But when did the season really start for the Chargers?
Well, I made this statement when we talked. A lot of times August 1st comes around, the 1st of August, everybody thinks football season starts. And it's not the way we approach our program. Our preparation for this season started the Monday after Thanksgiving. We got put out on a Friday night and we're off for a week, and we actually started that Monday. It's a year-round program. We started in the weight room that day, 5 days a week. Every day we're in school, we're working. Okay, we never take a day off. The kids know that's just kind of expectations. But our season started then. And if you're going to be successful at this level, that's what it takes. It's not just show up at practice and get ready to play. So we make a point of emphasis that we start as soon as the last game's over. We start the next Monday, and it's all out every day. In the weight room or some type of activity. It's a lot of people don't understand the when you played, I played, Rodney, football season, was about 3 or 4 months and you moved on to something else. But now it's pretty much a year-round activity as far as the weight room, strength and conditioning, that type of thing.
Oh, great, man. And when you think about the football program with Grenada School District as a whole, from the middle school all the way through high school, how many players are we talking about, Coach Kuhn?
Well, high school obviously gets the attention, but we play 5 football games a week, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, JV, and varsity. So we got 5 games going on a week, and that involves a lot of kids. And what I like is, we have our kids get to play age-appropriate football. If you're a 12, 13-year-old, you play with 12, 13-year-olds. Whereas some schools you have them. I like to keep them by age. So we have a 7th grade program, an 8th grade, and like I said, a 9th grade, and I got a great junior high staff. But when I started here, that was one of the areas I first identified, getting that junior high program set like I wanted it set. And the last couple of years, we've been very successful in that. And we play, I would argue, probably the toughest junior high conference in the state of Mississippi. You got West Point, Starkville, Tupelo, Columbus, Noxubee County, Louisville. Those are some of the blue blood programs in this state. And we've held our own. We've had some good years there, and it carries over to high school. But, 40 to 50 7th graders, 50 to 60 8th graders, 40 to 50 9th graders, 85 to 100 high school. So we're talking about a lot of kids, and those numbers fluctuate. Some people or some kids will want to play when they're younger, then they find out maybe that's not what they want to do. And those numbers fluctuate, but our numbers have been great at the junior high level, and we're seeing a lot of carryover from the success we have in 7th and 8th grade up to the high school. Our 9th grade program the last couple of years has won a lot of games, and I've got a really good group, I feel like, this year. So all that goes together in building the high school program, but junior high is where it all starts.
So for Friday night, How many players do you think you'll be dressing out Friday night?
Friday we'll dress about 75 to 80.
Okay.
You know, this year our numbers are down just a hair, and some of that's because we really intensified some summer workouts and conditionings and things like that. And, you know, like I said, it's not for everybody. You know. And it's mandatory. I mean, you don't get to say, well, I don't want to do this and I'm going to play. Now, here's what you got to do. And these are your expectations. And if you meet those, you get to be on the team. And if you don't, you don't. And, you know, but we'll dress 75 to 80. But that's just 10 through 12. You know, we've got another 35 or 40 ninth graders that we could dress out, but I choose not to do that. So, you know, our numbers are a little down, but they're still, compared to when I got here,
Right.
8 seniors our first year, 50 players. You know, things have really moved in the right direction.
What about coaching staff this year? We had some changes in your coaching staff.
Yeah, you know, that's something that's pretty much happens yearly. You know, and especially when you're having some success, guys get opportunities. I mean, I've had a couple of guys go and be head coaches in the last couple of years, but we added a couple of guys this year, and I feel like you know, this is probably the best coaching staff I've had since I've been here. You know, we brought in a couple guys that are going to really do a good job for us, and you know, coaching is all about relationships. You know, how you treat the kids, how the kids respond to you, and you know, everybody knows something about football. But you know, I feel really good about this staff. Like I said, I feel like it's probably the best I've had. I've got a mix of experience and youth. You know, so I feel like I've got a really good group.
Okay, thank you. All right, when we're talking about players, man, for this year, you know, returning starters that you have, new starters that are stepping up into key roles. If we talk about some of those guys, I guess we can start on defense.
Right.
Who would you?
Well, defensively, defense will be our strength early on. We returned 8 starters defensively, which is a large number, and we had I felt like we had a really good defense last year. So we returned 8 guys, which is anytime you return that number of guys on either side of the ball, that's positive. So we have 8 starters returning on defense. And they're going to carry us early, you know. Offensively, it's the exact opposite. We don't return very many starters at all. But, you know, the good thing is we kind of got it balanced out, where one year we return a lot on one side. When you don't return a lot on either side, you know, is when you get into an issue. But defense will have to carry us early. We got a really big defensive front. I mean, we got 6 guys we can rotate there that are 300 pounds, all 350-pound benchers, big, strong kids, you know. So we got a lot of D linemen I feel really good about. Jasper Williams returning at linebacker. You know, he's already got a couple Division I offers. He's about 6'1", 215 pounds, good size as a high school football player. You know.
What about Emmanuel Forbes?
Yeah,
I know he's playing both ways.
He will. He will play both ways. He was started as a sophomore for us last year, which doesn't happen a lot, and he's going to be a really good player. You know, got to keep him healthy. You know, but he was.
He did.
He was our best DB last year.
And well, in the Jamboree game this last Saturday, didn't he catch a touchdown pass?
He did, and he's an athletic kid who will play both ways, and that's a difference this year that you'll see is we are going to play some guys more both ways. We just have to. You know, our philosophy is going to be get the best players on the field, regardless of position or whatever. But yes, Emmanuel Jr., really good football player. Jalen Stokes, big defensive lineman. T.J. Loggins, big defensive lineman, return in there. Josh Everett, you know, young kid we really expect big things out of. You know, defensively we feel like we got a lot of experience, and if you've seen our kids, man, we've got really good size up front. I mean, we're really got some good size and good strength on the defensive front. So that group's going to definitely be important to us. And you know, Coach Foster, our defensive coordinator, does a great job of him. He has full control of that group, and he's one-on-one. The kids love the guy, man. They will play. He could tell them anything and they'll try to do it, and some way he's able to convince them kids to do anything, and so we're really going to count on those guys early.
All right. On offense,
yeah,
who you got as far as I noticed the other day in the Jamboree, you had DeMarquise Gibson.
Right.
Seemed like he carried the ball a number of times.
You know, last year was a year where we were devastated with injuries. I think we had 5 ACLs. We lost Dion week 4, who was our leading running back. I mean, it was just one of those years where the fortunate part of that is that forced us to play some sophomores, some young kids. DeMarquez Gibson was forced into being a running back as a 10th grader last year, so he's going to be our starter, our feature back. We're expecting big things from him. He's a good football player. Jamarius Boo Boo Robinson. If you don't know about Boo Boo, he's about 5'6", 150 pounds. He's probably one of the most dynamic football players I've ever coached. He's a first-team All-State guy last year. Playoff against Germantown, he went 90 on a punt return. He went 80 on a quarterback sweep. He went about 60 on another play. I mean, he's just a football player. Great football player.
Lots of speed.
Quick. He'll play some quarterback. He's a guy you get the ball to, whether it's in space or under center, however. He's going to be a big part of that. Christian Wortham, big 6'2" receiver, a kid who is already drawing a lot of Division I interest, a guy on the outside. Those are the guys. Dontavius Shilk, fullback, counting on. And we got 2 returning linemen. I mean, if there's an area I'm concerned about, it's up front.
Offensive line.
Donovan Ross started every game as a sophomore last year. Philip Cook. But other than that, very inexperienced up front, and that's an area I'm really concerned about.
All right. Thank you, Coach. We're going to take just a second here to take a break and a word from our sponsor, Grenada Nissan. So Grenada Nissan's been a great ally for Grenada schools. Back on August 6th, when we held Meet the Teachers Day for students, Grenada Nissan showed up at all our campuses to deliver bags of school supplies to our teachers.
Hey, we're Joe Montgomery from Grenada Nissan. Well, here we are with some care packages for the teachers to start this new year because Grenada Nissan believes in the Grenada School District.
All right, this next segment of our show, we're going to take some questions from our audience here at Coffee with Coach Kuhn. And so first up, do we have some question askers out here in the audience? All right, first up, y'all, this is Michael Smith. Michael's going to be helping us do the commentating and play-by-play every Friday night, this fall, along with myself, Rodney Murphy, and also Kevin Carnathan. We're going to be the team that's going to try to bring you the game each and every Friday night with some detail and hopefully give you a lot of good information. All right, Michael, you have a question for Coach Kuhn?
The question I have a two-part question, well, 2 questions in all. The first one you talked earlier about community involvement. What can the community do better to get involved with the football program that we have here?
I'm glad you asked that question. I got a few ways. But, the community here has been really, really good. But there are always things we're looking, for help with. We're very blessed here to have a very strong booster club, touchdown club. And I'm gonna say this, we take really good care of the kids. I mean, if you play in our program, you're gonna be fed before every game, after every game, you're gonna be provided everything. You don't have to spend a dollar. I mean, everything you need to participate is gonna be provided through the schools or the booster club some way. And, but we're always looking for help in that, feeding kids before game. Like I said, people get caught up in the high school deal. They don't realize there's 120 little 12, 13-year-olds running around on Thursday. We need help feeding those guys. We have churches that are volunteering to feed our kids. I mean, we don't even have to ask. I mean, churches are lined up to help us on Fridays. We have not paid for a pregame meal in probably 6 years. I mean, the community's really stepped up, and churches across the community. But we need help. I know my booster club right now is looking for some volunteers to help put up the big tunnel that we run through, to help fix meals for the junior high, make sandwiches, those type of things, the things that go unnoticed a lot of times. But, that we're going to take care of those kids. We need as much help there as we can. So anybody who's interested in that, we'd love to have you.
The next question is style of offense. What style of offense will we try to mimic or will we run this year?
Well, I don't really get caught up in too much trying to do certain things. I made this statement last year. The type of offense I like to run is the type that wins games. Okay, and it can be a variety of different ways. I mean, if we're strong, we're going to try to fit what we do to the strengths of our kids. I've learned that you cannot ask kids to do what they can't do. Okay, so if we have certain kids that are good at certain things, then that's what we're going to tailor our offense around. But I mean, it's no secret that we're going to be a run-first team. We're going to try to establish the running game. That being said, we feel like we got some really dynamic playmakers that we want to get the ball to. You know, we made a concerted effort last week to throw it deep 4, 5, 6 times. Didn't have Jamarius. That's the guy we want to get it to. But, you know, to answer your question, we're going to do what best gives us, our kids, the chance to be successful. And it's going to be based upon the run game, but we're going to look for that to give us one-on-one matchups outside and the ability to get the ball outside. So whatever gives us the best opportunity to be successful, give our kids the best opportunity to be successful.
Thank you.
My name is Raphael. I'm a service advisor here at Grenada Nissan. Quick question is, how has practice been going?
Well, you know, this practice is, it depends on what day you ask me, but, you know, we started in July this year, and but first week, we got some really cool temperatures, if you remember, but boy, after that, it really heated up. But, you know, for the most part, it's gone well. We, to this point, are injury-free, basically. But it's been a deal where every day we're trying to, you know, you got 2 weeks to get everything in. And I mean, you're talking about special teams, offense, defense. But for the most part, it's been going well. I feel like this week has been our best week of preparation, which I'm excited about because I think the kids, those first couple of weeks when you don't play a game, you know, sometimes the focus is not where it needs to be, but then maybe you shift the game week, see a new focus, and I've seen that this week. So the first couple of days I've been really pleased with practice. At some point, you get tired of tackling yourselves, banging on yourselves, practicing against yourself, and you're ready to see an opponent. And I feel like we're to that point. But, you know, the main thing about practice, it's a fine line. You got to get yourself ready to play, but at the same time, you got to get your horses to the race. I mean, you don't want to get them injured in practice, you know, so it's a fine line that we try to you know, get them ready, but at the same time, have them healthy to play. But this week, I've really been pleased with practice.
Thank you.
What you think about the team to play this week?
Christian Brothers, I saw some stats on the bottom there. What is that? Christian Brothers ranked, you know, a top team, man.
In Tennessee, yeah.
And there's a couple of factors you got to take into place when you're considering Christian Brothers. One, their school is allowed to openly recruit. Okay, so they can go out and get players from across the country, which they have done. You know, they don't have the same guidelines and rules that we do. And they're part of the Tennessee Athletic Association, which means they've started practice 2 weeks before we did. They've already played a couple of 90-play scrimmages, things we're not allowed to do. So they come into week one with, you know, a major advantage as far as practice time being ready to play. They're very talented. 12, 13, and 1 last year. I can't remember. Deep run in playoffs.
12 and 1.
Yeah. You know, they'll be ranked really high. They've got, you know, at least they've got a 4-star defensive end committed to Georgia. Kid's got offers from Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, all across the country. 6'7". You know, he'll be easy to spot. He'll be the big, tall one standing over there, and he'll play offense and defense.
Yeah.
And my first thoughts going into the game is we're going to run the other way, away from him. Mm-hmm. Well, the guy on the other side is committed to Memphis, okay, and he's 6'4", so he's a really good player too. Mm-hmm. And then they have another one who's committed to Vanderbilt, so you know, 6'4" kids. So they got kids that are. They'll be one of the largest teams we'll see, and they got kids with major offers that are really good, you know, and they're really disciplined, you know. But when you're able to, you know, bring kids from different areas and parts of the state and throughout Memphis, it's a major advantage. But I knew these things going in, you know.
We played them a relatively close game last year at their place last year.
A couple of mistakes, that game could have been a different game. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about a really good opponent who's going to come in really prepared, and it's going to take a really good effort from our kids. But I feel like, you know, if we're able to execute the game plan and not make mistakes, we'll be okay. All right. Thank you.
Coach, what is your expectation and goals for the team this season?
You know, my expectation every year, and I've said this since I've been here, and, you know, some kind of laugh or say, well, that's not possible. Our expectation every year is to win a state championship, period. And that's our goal, and we're going to continue to strive for that. So that's our goal as far as what we want to accomplish. Now there are other things that go into that. We talk about we want to win all our home games, and we have 7 of those this year. We obviously want to win our division. We want to get into playoffs. We want to win our playoff game. And there's some goals as far as winning and losing that go into that. The state championship being the ultimate goal. But you break it down even further than that. I've got 20 seniors. Man, I don't want to see those kids have a successful year, graduate. I got several of them that'll go into college and move on to the next level. But ultimately, if your kids will play as hard as they can and give you what they got, play up to their ability, and maybe even a little bit past their ability. Bottom line, this is all that can be done, But as a team, we want to win that state championship. That's our goal. But we also want to see our kids reach the best level they can possibly reach and play as hard as they can. If they do those things, it's going to be a successful season. But we don't shy away from the expectations. The expectations, I made this statement up when we were talking, is not to make the playoffs anymore. I think that's kind of become expected. That's expected. Our goal now, I think, is a little bit loftier than that, And our kids talk about it, and our kids, they believe that. And if they believe that, then it's something we can accomplish. And at some point it'll happen, and every year we go into the year with the same expectations and goals. But that's the best I can answer your question.
Well, I want to thank Coach Kuhn for taking time out on a very busy week to be with us for the show. Thanks to our audience, for all the participation, and thanks to Grenada Nissan for the sponsorship and support. So that's a wrap for our coaches show for this first week. And until next time, go Chargers.